Marcus Chun sat in the dingy bar on Station Omega, nursing his third drink of the night. The whiskey was cheap and burned his throat, but it helped him forget about his last job. 3 months of hunting pirates in the Outer Rim, only to have his employer try to cheat him out of half his pay. He still had scorch marks on his armor from that argument. The bar was full of the usual crowd. Smugglers, bounty hunters, mercenaries like himself, all trying to make a living on the edge of civilized space. Marcus preferred it here. No politicians, no bureaucrats, just simple contracts with clear objectives. Find someone, protect someone, or make someone disappear. Easy enough for a former Earth Special Forces operator. A shadow fell across his table. Marcus looked up to see a tall figure in an expensive cloak. The fabric shimmered with colors that hurt to look at directly. Definitely alien and definitely wealthy. The figure pulled back its hood, revealing a face that was almost human, but not quite. The skin was pale blue and seemed to glow from within. The eyes were too large and completely silver. "You are Marcus Chun?" The voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Depends who's asking." Marcus kept his hand near his pistol. Rich aliens usually meant trouble. "I am Ambassador Velinara, speaking for Queen Zethara of the Velthari Empire." The alien sat down across from him without being invited. "My queen requires your services." Marcus almost laughed. "Lady, I think you got the wrong guy. The Velthari Empire has 17 star systems and the most advanced military in the galaxy. What could they possibly want with one human mercenary?" The ambassador leaned forward. 3 days ago, Queen Zethara's daughters vanished. Princess Lithana, Princess Morella, and Princess Zinthara. They were in the most secure location in our empire, protected by quantum shields, psychic barriers, and 200 elite guards. Yet they disappeared without a trace. Sounds like an inside job. Marcus took another sip of whiskey. "Your own people can handle that. We tried everything." The ambassador's voice cracked slightly. "Our best investigators found nothing. Our quantum trackers detected no evidence. Our psychic readers sensed no mental signatures. Even our temporal scanners showed no disturbances. It is as if they simply ceased to exist." Marcus studied the alien's face. He had learned to read emotions in dozens of species during his years as a mercenary. This one was desperate, trying hard not to show it. "Still don't see what this has to do with me." The ambassador reached into her cloak and pulled out a small crystal cube. She placed it on the table between them. The cube projected a hologram showing 3 young aliens who looked like smaller versions of their ambassador. They had the same pale blue skin and silver eyes, but their faces held youth and curiosity. "These are the princesses. They are not just the queen's daughters. They are the future of our people. Without them, our royal bloodline ends. Our empire will fall into civil war as the noble houses fight for succession." Marcus looked at the hologram. The 3 girls seemed happy, laughing at something off camera. They reminded him of his own sister when she was young, before the war took her. The queen has offered a reward. The ambassador touched the cube, and new numbers appeared in the air. Marcus nearly choked on his drink. "That's more money than most planets. See, in a year, the queen would pay 10 times that amount to have her daughters returned safely." The ambassador's silver eyes fixed on Marcus. "The money is not why we came to you." "Then why?" "Because you are human." The ambassador said it like it explained everything. Marcus frowned. "Humans are considered barely civilized by most of the galaxy. We can't read minds or see through time or manipulate quantum fields. Why would you want primitive human help?" "Because perhaps that is exactly what we need." The ambassador stood up. "Our advanced methods have failed. Our sophisticated technology found nothing. Our highly evolved minds cannot solve this puzzle. Maybe we need someone who thinks differently. She left a crystal cube on the table. The Queen waits on her royal ship in orbit. If you accept, you will be taken there immediately. You have 1 hour to decide. Marcus watched the ambassador glide away between the crowded tables. He picked up the crystal cube and looked at the hologram again. 3 young aliens who might already be dead. A queen desperate enough to hire a human. A reward that would set him up for life. But something about this felt wrong. In his experience, when people vanished without a trace, it usually meant someone very smart was behind it. Someone who knew how to avoid detection. And if the Valthari's advanced technology couldn't find them, what chance did one human have? He thought about walking away. He had enough money saved up to retire to a quiet world somewhere. Find a small house, maybe learn to grow something other than calluses and scars. But then he looked at the hologram again. The 3 girls were so young. And somewhere out there, their mother was probably going crazy with worry. Marcus knew what that felt like. He had watched his own mother waste away after his sister disappeared during the blight. Border Wars. Marcus finished his whiskey and stood up. He had never been smart enough to walk away from a lost cause. An hour later, he was aboard a Valthari shuttle heading for the Queen's ship. The pilot was another blue-skinned alien who kept glancing at him nervously, like Marcus might suddenly go crazy and start breaking things. He'd gotten used to that reaction from aliens. Most of them saw humans as violent primitives who solved every problem with explosions. The Queen's ship was massive, more like a floating city than a spacecraft. It was made of the same crystal material as the cube, glowing with soft light that seemed to come from within. Marcus had seen pictures of Valthari architecture before, but experiencing it in person was different. The walls seemed alive, shifting and flowing like water frozen in time. The ambassador met him at the airlock and led him through corridors that were more like art galleries. Everything was beautiful and perfect and completely alien. Marcus felt like a mud-covered boot print on white carpet. They finally reached a vast chamber with a ceiling that disappeared into clouds of soft light. At the center, on a throne that looked like it was carved from a single enormous diamond, sat Queen Zithara. She was taller than Marcus had expected, maybe 7 feet, with the same pale blue skin as the ambassador, but decorated with intricate silver patterns that seemed to move across her face and arms. Her silver eyes were the size of saucers, and when she looked at Marcus, he felt like she was seeing straight through to his soul. But despite all the alien majesty and power, Marcus saw something familiar in those huge silver eyes. It was the same look he had seen in his own mother's face all those years ago. The look of a parent who had lost a child and would do anything to get them back. "You are the human," Queen Zithara said. Her voice filled the entire chamber without echoing. "You will find my daughters." It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded. "I'll find them, Your Majesty. But I do things my way, whatever you require." Marcus looked up at the Queen on her crystal throne and wondered what he had gotten himself into. But he had given his word, and that still meant something, even in a galaxy full of aliens who could mind and bend reality. "Then let's get started." Marcus stood in the princess's chambers, ignoring the dozen Valthari investigators who watched him with barely hidden contempt. The room was enormous, with walls that flowed like frozen waterfalls and furniture that seemed to grow from the floor itself. Everything was perfect, untouched, like a museum display. "Show me the quantum scan results again," demanded Chief Investigator Noreth. His silver eyes flashed with irritation. "The molecular displacement readings clearly indicate. I don't care about your fancy readings." Marcus knelt down next to the youngest princess's bed and ran his fingers along the crystal frame. "I want to see things with my own eyes." The investigators exchanged glances that Marcus didn't need to be psychic to understand. They thought he was an idiot. A primitive human trying to solve a mystery that had stumped the most advanced minds in the galaxy. Marcus found what he was looking for. 3 tiny scratches in the crystal, so small they were almost invisible. He pulled out a magnifying glass from his kit, an ancient piece of Earth technology that made the aliens shake their heads in disbelief. "These scratches are fresh," Marcus said, pointing to the marks. "Someone carved them recently." "Impossible," Norath scoffed. "Our molecular scanners would have detected any damage to the crystal matrix. Those marks are probably centuries old." Marcus ignored him and moved to the next bed. Same thing. 3 small scratches near the head of each bed. He pulled out his camera and took pictures, another piece of primitive human tech that the aliens found amusing. "Why are you using that ancient device?" asked one of the younger investigators. "Our quantum imagers can record at the subatomic level, because sometimes old ways work better." Marcus continued his examination, looking for things the aliens would consider beneath notice. Dust patterns, wear marks, anything that might tell a story. In the main living area, he found something interesting. The furniture was arranged perfectly, but there were faint impressions in the soft crystal floor. Someone had moved the chairs recently, then put them back. Not quite in the right spots. "Your scans miss a lot," Marcus said to Norath. "You're so busy looking at quantum signatures that you forget to check if someone moved the furniture." Norath's face darkened. "Human, you understand nothing about proper investigation techniques. We can trace molecular disturbances across time itself. Your primitive methods found something your advanced methods missed." Marcus pointed to the floor impressions. "Someone had a meeting here recently. They moved the chairs to face each other, then tried to hide the evidence." He spent the next hour interviewing the guards, servants, and staff. The aliens grew increasingly frustrated with his approach. Instead of using psychic probes or true scanners, Marcus simply talked to people. He asked simple questions and listened carefully to the answers. Most importantly, he watched body language. Aliens might have different faces, but fear and guilt looked the same across every species he had ever met. The youngest guard, barely more than a recruit, kept glancing toward the service corridors when Marcus questioned him about the night the princesses disappeared. "You saw something," Marcus said quietly, pulling the guard aside. "What was it?" I cannot say." Chief Investigator Norath said it was not important. Marcus looked back at the Chief Investigator, who was arguing with another alien about quantum field fluctuations. "I'm not Norath. Tell me what you saw." The guard's silver eyes darted around nervously. 3 nights ago, I saw Princess Lithon in the corridor after midnight. She was not supposed to leave her chambers, but she looked happy, excited, like she was going to meet someone. "Did you report this?" "Yes, but the chief investigator said it was impossible. The quantum log showed no movement in that corridor. He said I must have been mistaken or dreaming." Marcus felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. "What else?" "Princess Livina was carrying a small bag, and she kept looking back, like she was making sure no one followed her. That afternoon, Marcus examined the service corridors while the Velthari investigators continued their quantum scans in the main chambers. The corridors were dimly lit and narrow, designed for maintenance workers rather than royalty. Most aliens would never think to look here. Marcus found more evidence. Footprints in the dust that matched Velthari boots. Recent ones. Someone had been using these corridors regularly, and they had been careful to stay quiet. At the end of one corridor, he discovered something that made his blood run cold. Hidden behind a maintenance panel was a small device he recognized immediately. It was crude, built from scavenged parts, but effective. A jamming device that would interfere with quantum scanners and psychic probes. Human technology. Someone with human knowledge had helped the princesses disappeared. Marcus was examining the device when alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed, and he could hear the thunder of running feet in the main corridors. He grabbed his weapons and ran toward the throne room, his boots echoing in the crystal halls. When he arrived, he found chaos. The Queen's guards were scattered around the chamber, some unconscious, others groaning in pain. Queen Zethara was standing behind her throne, her silver eyes wide with shock. What happened? Marcus demanded, checking the fallen guards for serious injuries. An assassin, the Queen said, her musical voice shaking. They appeared from nowhere and attacked. My guards' energy weapons had no effect. Their shields simply absorbed everything. Marcus frowned. Velthari energy shields were nearly impenetrable. For them to fail meant someone had access to very specific knowledge about their weaknesses. How did you survive? I do not know. The assassin was about to strike when something hit them from behind. They fled before I could see who saved me. Marcus walked to where the Queen pointed. There, embedded in the crystal floor, was a single projectile. He pried it loose and examined it carefully. A standard kinetic round, the kind fired from human weapons. Old-fashioned, primitive, and completely effective against energy shields that were designed to stop lasers and plasma bolts. Your Majesty, Marcus said slowly, I think we have a bigger problem than just missing princesses. He held up the bullet. Someone with human weapons and human knowledge is hunting your family, and they know exactly how your technology works. Queen Zethara stared at the primitive bullet in Marcus's hand. How is this possible? Humans are not allowed in the inner systems. Your people lack the technology for stealth infiltration. That's what makes us dangerous, Marcus said grimly. We don't need fancy technology. We just need to be smarter than the people looking for us. He looked around the throne room, noting the angles of attack, the escape routes, the blind spots that even the most advanced security system would have. Whoever had done this knew the ship's layout perfectly. They had studied Velthari tactics and technology, and they had used simple human weapons to bypass defenses that could stop antimatter bombs. Your Majesty, I need to change how we're doing things. Your advanced security isn't keeping you safe. It's making you predictable. The Queen's silver eyes narrowed. What do you suggest? Marcus hefted the bullet in his hand. We fight fire with fire. If there's a human hunting your family, then you need a human to protect you. I don't play by alien rules. That night, Marcus sat in his quarters, cleaning his weapons and thinking. The princesses hadn't been kidnapped. They had run away, and someone with human knowledge had helped them do it. But that same someone had just tried to kill their mother, which meant the princesses were probably in danger too, whether they knew it or not. That Marcus had spent his career hunting dangerous people across the galaxy. But this was the first time he was hunting another human. Someone who thought like he did, planned like he did, and used the same tactics he would use. It was going to be like fighting his own shadow. He loaded fresh rounds into his pistol and checked his armor one more time. Tomorrow he would start doing things the human way. No quantum scanners, no psychic probes, no advanced technology. Just old-fashioned detective work, paranoia, and the kind of dirty fighting that had kept humans alive in a galaxy full of species that should have wiped them out centuries ago. The alien Queen's daughters were out there somewhere, probably thinking they had escaped to freedom. But Marcus knew better. Someone was playing a very dangerous game, and 3 young aliens were about to learn that humans could be the most terrifying predators in the galaxy, especially when they were hunting each other. Marcus stood in the Queen's war room, facing 24 of the most powerful aliens in the Velthari Empire. Their silver eyes glowed with anger and disbelief as he outlined his security plan. Absolutely not, declared Admiral Vorthak, the Queen's chief military advisor. You want us to disable our quantum shields? Remove our energy barriers? This is madness. It's survival, Marcus replied, keeping his voice calm. Your assassin walked right through those defenses yesterday. They're not protecting the Queen. They're telling everyone exactly where she is. Defense Minister Kolara stepped forward, her tall frame radiating outrage. Human, you suggest we protect our Queen with primitive kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. We have technology that can level mountains. And your assassin knows exactly how all of it works. Marcus pulled up a hologram of the previous day's attack. Look at the entry route. They came through the one corridor your sensors couldn't scan because of quantum interference. They used a weapon designed specifically to bypass energy shields. This wasn't luck. This was someone who studied your defenses for months. Queen Zethora sat silent on her throne, listening. Her silver eyes moved between Marcus and her advisors, weighing their words. What do you propose instead? She asked quietly. Marcus activated his own holographic display, showing a much simpler security layout. We make you unpredictable. Change your routine every hour. Use different routes. Sleep in different rooms. And we protect you with weapons they won't expect. He held up his sidearm, a simple kinetic pistol that looked crude compared to the aliens' elegant energy weapons. This fires metal slugs using chemical propulsion. No energy signature. No quantum field. Your assassin's fancy shields won't stop it because it's too primitive to register as a threat. Admiral Vorthek made a sound of disgust. You want to defend our Queen with weapons that belonged in museums 1,000 years ago. I want to defend her with weapons that work. Marcus met the Admiral's gaze steadily. Your energy weapons are beautiful, precise, and completely useless against someone who knows how to counter them. Sometimes the best high-tech solution is no tech at all. The debate continued for another hour, but Queen Zethora finally raised her hand for silence. We will try the humans' methods. Admiral, implement his security protocols immediately. The advisors looked like they had been asked to eat poison, but they obeyed Dot over the next 3 days. Marcus turned the Queen's life upside down. Gone were the predictable royal schedules and ceremonial appearances. Instead, Queen Zethara moved through her ship like a ghost, following routes that changed hourly and seemed to make no logical sense. Marcus replaced her elite guard with a smaller team armed with human weapons. Kinetic rifles, chemical grenades, and old-fashioned armor that relied on metal plating instead of energy fields. The royal court was horrified, but Marcus didn't care about their opinions. He taught the Queen herself to use a human pistol, showing her how to aim and fire the primitive weapon. She learned quickly, her alien grace adapting to the unfamiliar technology. Why do you trust these simple weapons? She asked during one of their training sessions. Because they're honest, Marcus replied, watching her hit the center of the target. An energy weapon can be hacked, redirected, or absorbed by the right countermeasures. But a chunk of metal moving really fast, that's harder to argue with. On the 4th day, the assassin struck again. Marcus was escorting the Queen through a maintenance corridor when his instinct screamed danger. He grabbed the Queen, threw both of them behind a support beam, just as the wall exploded in a shower of crystal shards. The assassin stepped through the hole, dressed in sleek black armor that seemed to bend light around it. Stealth tech, advanced enough to fool even Velthari sensors. But Marcus could see the faint heat distortion, a trick he had learned fighting invisible enemies on a dozen different worlds. The assassin raised a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. It looked like Velthari technology, but modified with components Marcus didn't recognize. The beam it fired would have cut through the Queen's normal energy shields like they were made of paper. Instead, it hit the metal barrier Marcus had installed in the corridor. Crude steel plating that absorbed the energy blast and glowed red-hot, but held. Marcus rolled out from behind cover and opened fire with his kinetic rifle. The bullet struck the assassin's energy shield and passed right through. The shield was designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles, but the assassin was fast, diving behind cover before Marcus could land a solid hit. Smart enough to adapt, just like Marcus would have done. "Stay down," Marcus told the Queen, then activated his comm unit. "All teams, code red. We have contact in Section 7. The response came from his human armed guards, but not in the way he expected. Instead of coordinating a proper response, their voices carried confusion and panic. "Sir, our weapons aren't working. The ammo is jammed. My rifle just shut down." Marcus cursed. The assassin had found a way to sabotage their weapons remotely. But how? Human kinetic weapons didn't use the kind of electronics that could be hacked. Unless Marcus looked at his own rifle and noticed something that made his blood run cold. Small modifications had been made to the firing mechanism. Changes so subtle he had almost missed them. Someone had been tampering with their weapons, installing remote disable devices. Someone who had access to their armory. Someone who understood both human and alien technology well enough to modify primitive weapons with advanced electronics. Not the assassin appeared again, moving within human speed. But now Marcus could see details he had missed before. The way they moved wasn't quite right for a Velthari. Too direct, too aggressive. And the armor, despite its advanced appearance, had the kind of practical modifications a soldier would make. Extra ammo pouches. Reinforced joints. The kind of changes someone who had actually used armor in combat would think to add. "You're human," Marcus called out as he dodged another energy blast. "What's your name, soldier?" The assassin paused for a fraction of a second. Just long enough for Marcus to confirm his suspicion. "Captain Jake Morrison, Earth Special Forces, retired." The voice came through a modulator, but Marcus caught the accent. "North American, probably Canadian. Though I guess you could say I found new employment." Marcus felt pieces of the puzzle clicking together. A human operative with access to advanced alien technology. Someone who knew exactly how Velthari defenses worked because he had been studying them for years. "The princesses," Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. "You helped them escape." "Smart boy. Though not smart enough, it seems." Morrison's weapon hummed as it charged for another shot. "The girls wanted freedom. I gave it to them. Now I'm cleaning up loose ends. By killing their mother? By removing the one person whom I convinced them to come home." Morrison's laugh was bitter. "They paid me to help them disappear. But my real employers paid me much more to make sure they never come back." Marcus realized the trap he had walked into. Morrison wasn't just a rogue operative. He was playing multiple sides, taking money from the princesses to help them escape, while also working for whoever wanted the Velthari. Royal line extinct, and now he was stuck in a maintenance corridor, protecting an alien queen with weapons that had been sabotaged by the very person he was fighting. But Marcus had spent years learning that the most dangerous weapons weren't the most advanced ones. They were the ones nobody expected. He reached into his boot and pulled out a knife. Simple steel, sharp edge, no electronics to sabotage. The kind of weapon humans had been using since they learned to work metal. "Morrison," Marcus called out. "You made one mistake." "What's that?" Marcus smiled grimly and hefted the knife. "You assumed I needed a gun to kill you. The real fight was about to begin. Human versus human, using skills learned in the darkest corners of the galaxy. And somewhere out there, 3 alien princesses who thought they had found freedom were about to discover that the man they trusted was planning to sell them to the highest bidder." Marcus had always known that humans were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Now he was going to prove it. Marcus crouched in the shadows of the asteroid field, watching the derelict human freighter drift among the rocks. It had taken him 6 hours of careful tracking to find Morrison's trail, following heat signatures and ion traces that the rogue operative had tried to hide. The freighter was old, maybe 50 years, though back when humans still used crude fusion drives and steel hulls. It was exactly the kind of ship that advanced alien scanners would dismiss as worthless junk. The perfect hiding place. Are you certain they are inside? Queen Zestera asked through the comm. She was back on her ship, safe behind the new security protocols Marcus had established after their fight with Morrison. The energy readings match Velthari life signs, Marcus replied, checking his scanner. 3 of them in what looks like the cargo hold. But there's something else. The whole ship is wrapped in radiation shielding that's interfering with detailed scans. Human engineering at its finest. When you couldn't build perfect shields, you built thick ones. The freighter's hull was lined with enough radioactive material to blind even the most sophisticated sensors. It was crude, dangerous, and effective. Marcus docked his shuttle to the freighter's airlock and cycled through. The interior was dark, lit only by emergency lighting that cast long shadows down empty corridors. The air was stale and tasted of recycled atmosphere that had been recycled too many times. He made his way toward the cargo hold, weapon ready. But as he got closer, he heard something unexpected. Voices, young voices, speaking in the musical language of the Velthari. They sounded scared. Marcus reached the cargo hold and found the 3 princesses huddled together in the center of the room. They were inside some kind of energy cage, a cube of crackling force that surrounded them on all sides. When Princess Lithana saw him, her silver eyes went wide with fear. "Please," she said in accented English. "We did nothing wrong. We just wanted to be free." Marcus holstered his weapon and approached the cage carefully. The energy field was clearly designed to contain Velthari, probably nullifying their natural abilities. It was sophisticated work, the kind that required deep knowledge of alien biology. "I'm not here to hurt you," Marcus said gently. "Your mother sent me to find you." Princess Morella, the middle daughter, laughed bitterly. "Our mother wants to drag us back to our crystal cage, to spend our lives as ornaments in her court, married off to whatever nobleman will strengthen her political position. So, you hired Morrison to help you escape?" The youngest, Princess Intara, nodded. "Captain Morrison promised us freedom. He said he could take us somewhere our mother would never find us. We just wanted to choose our own lives." Marcus studied the energy cage. The control panel was mounted on the wall nearby, covered with human text and Velthari symbols. Morrison had built this himself, combining technologies from both species. "What happened? Why are you trapped?" Princess Lithana's voice broke. "Captain Morrison said there was a change of plans. He brought us here and activated this prison. He said people were looking for us, and we needed to stay hidden for a while. But it has been 3 days, and he has not returned." Marcus felt anger building in his chest. Morrison had played these girls perfectly, offering them exactly what they wanted most. Freedom from their royal obligations. A chance to see the galaxy on their own terms. Instead, he had delivered them into a trap. Did Morrison say anything about other people? Anyone he was working with? Princess Morella exchanged glances with her sisters. He mentioned employers. People who would pay him for proof that we were gone forever. Proof. Princess Inthara shuddered. He said they would need our bodies to confirm that the royal bloodline had ended. Marcus closed his eyes. It was worse than he had thought. Morrison wasn't just planning to sell the princesses. He was planning to kill them and deliver proof of their deaths to whoever wanted to destabilize the Velthari Empire. And Marcus had led him straight to their location. "We have to get you out of here," Marcus said, examining the cage's control panel. The system was complex. requiring both human and Velthari biometric data to open. Morrison had made sure only he could free the prisoners. "You cannot," Princess Lithana said sadly. "We tried everything. The cage neutralizes our abilities, and the controls are locked with Captain Morrison's genetic signature." Marcus pulled out his multi-tool and started working on the control panel. "Lucky for you, I don't play by the same rules as Morrison." He began cutting into the panel circuitry, looking for the power conduits that fed the cage. It was delicate work. Cut the wrong wire, and the cage might kill the prisoners instead of freeing them. As he worked, Princess Morella asked quietly, "Are you going to take us back to our mother?" Marcus paused in his cutting. "That depends. What do you really want?" "To choose our own paths," Princess Zintara said fiercely. "To see the galaxy. To learn about other cultures. To maybe even fall in love with someone we pick ourselves, instead of someone chosen for political advantage. We know our mother loves us," Princess Lithana added, "but she sees us as chess pieces in her political games. We are not people to her. We are assets." Marcus understood that feeling. He had spent years as a soldier, following orders, being treated as a weapon instead of a person. But running away wasn't always the answer. "Your mother almost died yesterday," he said, still working on the control panel. "Someone tried to assassinate her. Probably the same people Morrison was working for." The three sisters fell silent. Marcus could see the conflict in their silver eyes. They wanted freedom, but they still loved their mother. "If we go back," Princess Morella said finally, "will anything change?" "That's up to you and her to decide." Marcus found the main power conduit and prepared to cut it. "But you can't make that choice from inside a cage." Warning lights began flashing throughout the freighter. Someone was approaching fast, and the ship's sensors had detected them. Morrison was coming back. "Stay calm," Marcus told the princesses. "I'm getting you out of here." He cut the power conduit, and the energy cage flickered and died. The three sisters stumbled out, weak from days of confinement but free. "Can you fight?" Marcus asked, checking his weapons. Princess Lithana straightened, and for a moment, Marcus could see her royal heritage in the way she carried herself. "We are daughters of the Velthari Empire. We may have been sheltered, but we are not helpless." A docking clamp echoed through the ship as Morrison's vessel attached to the freighter. Marcus could hear footsteps in the corridor, coming closer. "He'll have the advantage," Marcus said, thinking quickly. "He knows this ship better than we do, and he'll be prepared for a fight." But Marcus had one advantage Morrison didn't expect. Three angry Velthari princesses who had just discovered that their trusted friend had been planning to murder them. "Your Highnesses," Marcus said with a grim smile, "I think it's time you learned what freedom really means. Sometimes you have to fight for it." Princess Morella's silver eyes blazed with fury. "What do you need us to do?" Marcus began outlining his plan as Morrison's footsteps drew closer. The rogue operative thought he was walking into a simple execution. 3 helpless prisoners and 1 human mercenary. Instead, he was about to face the wrath of the Velthari royal family. And Marcus was going to make sure Morrison learned firsthand why humans had earned their reputation as the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy, even when they were protecting the people trying to kill them. Morrison stepped into the cargo hold with his weapon ready, expecting to find 3 helpless prisoners and 1 dead human. Instead, he found an empty cage and Marcus Chun standing calmly in the center of the room. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," Morrison said, his modulated voice echoing in the metal chamber. "The princesses are assets, nothing more. Their deaths will destabilize the Velthari Empire and create opportunities for more practical species to expand their influence." "Let me guess," Marcus replied, keeping his hands visible but ready to move. "The Zethkari hired you. They've been wanting Velthari space for decades. Among others, Turns out a lot of people benefit when royal bloodlines disappear. Morrison raised his weapon. Where are the girls, Chun? Make this easy on yourself. Marcus smiled coldly. They're learning what freedom really means. That's when the lights went out. Princess Lithiana had accessed the ship's power grid through a maintenance panel, using her knowledge of Velthari energy systems to overload the human electrical circuits. The cargo hold plunged into darkness, lit only by the emergency lighting that cast everything in blood-red shadows. Morrison spun, trying to track multiple targets, but the princesses had scattered according to Marcus's plan. Princess Morello was in the ventilation system above, her slight frame allowing her to move through spaces that would trap a human. Princess Zinthara was behind the cargo containers, ready to use her natural Velthari speed when the moment came. And Princess Lithiana was doing something that made Morrison's advanced armor systems scream warnings at him. Velthari royalty didn't just have ceremonial powers. They were living conduits for massive amounts of energy, trained from childhood to manipulate forces that could level mountains. The energy cage had suppressed their abilities for days, building up pressure like water behind a dam. Now the dam was breaking. Lightning began to arc between Princess Lithiana's fingers, building in intensity as she focused her rage and fear into raw power. The metal walls of the freighter started to vibrate, responding to the energy field she was generating. Impossible, Morrison breathed. The null field generators should prevent. You built them to counter normal Velthari abilities. Marcus interrupted, drawing his knife. But these aren't normal Velthari. They're royalty. And you just spent 3 days giving them time to get really, really angry. Morrison fired at Marcus. But Princess Morella dropped from the ceiling at that exact moment, landing on the rogue operative's shoulders and throwing off his aim. The energy blast went wide, scorching the wall behind Marcus. Morrison threw the young princess off and spun to fire at her. But Princess Zinthara burst from behind the cargo containers, moving faster than human eyes could follow. She tackled Morrison from the side, sending them both crashing into a pile of supply crates. Kill the human, Morrison shouted into his comm unit. All units, kill the human now. That's when Marcus realized the full scope of Morrison's plan. The derelict freighter wasn't just a prison. It was a trap, with Morrison's eyes waiting in the asteroid field for Marcus to show up. Through the hull, Marcus could hear the sound of docking clamps engaging. More ships were attaching to the freighter. In minutes, they would be swarming with hostile forces. Your Highnesses, Marcus called out. We need to leave. Now. But Princess Lithiana wasn't listening. The energy building around her had reached critical levels, and her silver eyes blazed with power that made the air itself crackle. She was no longer the sheltered royal princess who had wanted to see the galaxy. She was a force of nature, shaped by generations of Velthari evolution into a living weapon. You betrayed our trust, she said to Morrison, her musical voice now carrying harmonics that made the metal floor ring like a bell. You would have murdered us for money. Morrison raised his weapon toward the princess, but Marcus moved faster. Years of combat experience took over, and he threw himself between Morrison and Princess Lithiana just as the rogue operative fired. The energy beam hit Marcus' center mass, punching through his armor and burning deep into his chest. Pain exploded through his nervous system as he crashed to the deck, his vision going dark around the edges. But he was still alive. Velthari energy weapons were designed for clean kills, not the kind of stopping power needed for human physiology. Morrison had expected one shot to drop him permanently, but humans were notoriously hard to kill. Marcus rolled behind cover and checked his wound. Bad, but not immediately fatal. He'd survived worse. Chun. Morrison's voice carried genuine surprise. Why are you protecting them? They're not even your species. Marcus pulled himself to his feet, using the cargo containers for support. Blood was running down his chest, but his hands were steady. Because someone has to. That's when Queen Zithora's voice echoed through the freighter's comm system. Attention all vessels. You are in violation of Velthari space and are commanded to surrender immediately. Morrison laughed. Your queen followed you here, just like I planned. My allies will destroy her ship before she can. His words were cut off by the sound of explosions echoing through the asteroid field. But they weren't coming from the direction of the Queen's ship. This is Admiral Vorthak, came another voice over the comm. Zethkari vessels neutralized. Your Majesty, the area is secure. Marcus grinned despite his pain. You really think the Queen came here alone? She brought half the royal fleet with her. Morrison's face went pale behind his helmet. His carefully planned ambush had just turned into a massacre of his allies, but the rogue operative wasn't finished. He reached for something on his belt, and Marcus recognized the device immediately. A dead man's switch connected to the freighter's fusion reactor. If Morrison died, the explosion would take out the ship, the princesses, and probably the Queen's vessel as well. Nobody moves, Morrison said, his finger hovering over the trigger. I may not get paid, but I can still complete the contract. The royal bloodline ends here. Princess Lithana took a step forward, energy still crackling around her hands. You cannot threaten us all forever. I don't need forever. Just long enough for the reactor to overload. Morrison's smile was visible through his helmet visor. 30 seconds should do it. Marcus looked at the three princesses, then at Morrison, calculating distances and timing. The dead man's switch was a simple device, but effective. The moment Morrison's heart stopped beating, they would all die, unless someone was willing to keep Morrison alive long enough to disarm the device. Marcus made his decision instead of attacking Morrison. He threw himself forward and wrapped his arms around the rogue operative in a bear hug, pinning Morrison's arms to his sides. Your Highnesses, get out of here! Marcus shouted. Get back to your mother. Morrison struggled against Marcus's grip, trying to reach the dead man's switch, but Marcus held on with the desperate strength of a man who had nothing left to lose. Chen, let go! You're going to get us all killed. That's the idea. Marcus could feel his strength fading as blood loss took its toll, but he tightened his grip. Princess Lithana, can you overload the switch without triggering the reactor? The eldest princess moved closer, her silver eyes studying the device on Morrison's belt. I can try, but I need a few seconds to understand the circuitry. Morrison thrashed harder, panic setting in as he realized his plan was falling apart. The Zethkari will never stop hunting your family. Even if you kill me, others will come. Then we'll be ready for them, Princess Morella said fiercely. We are not the helpless ornaments you thought we were. Princess Lithana placed her hands near the dead man's switch, energy flowing from her fingers in precise patterns. Sparks flew from the device as she carefully overloaded its circuits without triggering the reactor failsafe. Got it, she said, as the device went dark. Marcus released Morrison and staggered backward, finally allowing himself to collapse. The rogue operative raised his weapon one last time, but Princess Inthara was faster. Moving with the inhuman speed of her people, she struck Morrison's arm, and the weapon went flying. Morrison looked around at the three princesses, all of them now crackling with barely contained energy, and finally seemed to understand what he was facing. You're not helpless, little girls, he said in amazement. No, Princess Lithana replied, her voice carrying the authority of generations of Volthari rulers. We are the future of an empire, and we choose our own destiny. The cargo hold filled with the sound of cutting tools as the Queen's guards breached the freighter's hull. Within minutes, the chamber was full of Velthari soldiers who quickly secured Morrison and began providing medical aid to Marcus. Queen Zethara herself entered the cargo hold, moving with the fluid grace of her species, but also with the urgent desperation of a mother who had almost lost her children. She embraced each of her daughters in turn, silver tears streaming down her blue-tinged cheeks. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. When I heard the ships approaching, I feared the worst. "We are sorry, Mother," Princess Lithana said. "We wanted freedom, but we did not understand the cost, or the danger to our people." Queen Zethara looked at Marcus, who was being treated by the royal medics. "You saved them, again." Marcus managed a weak smile. "Just doing my job, Your Majesty." But Princess Morala stepped forward. "No, Mother. He did more than that. He showed us what true protection means."